All right, it's been a while since I did one of these. We used to do them every month, and I want to get back into it for all of you who paid attention before and have been wondering what happened to the videos. We do our monthly market update to see what is going on in the Ottawa real estate market. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kevin Feely. I'm a real estate agent here in Ottawa, and I run a small sales team as well. So what we want to do is we want to look at the numbers year over year, which is typically what you'll see most agents posting about. You'll see most news articles about, what the percentage of sales increased year over year. We'll look at that. It gives us a story, but we want to dive a little bit deeper and take a look at the market trends. What are we seeing month by month? Because what we're seeing the trends happening is how we're going to predict the future and how we're going to know when is the right time to buy, when is the right time to sell. What can I expect if I'm looking to do one of these things in the near future from when I'm looking at the data today by the time I am ready to make that move. So without further ado, here we go. Let's take a look at the average price of a home here in Ottawa for July of 2025. So you look quickly here, we'll see the ROI as being 7.8%. So that's huge, telling us that the average price of a home is up 7.8%. But let's take a look at the full story. And here it is. If we look at August of 2024, we saw the average price of a home be 606. And we look at July of 2025, the average home being 654. That's quite an increase. However, if we look at month over month, you can see that the price is actually down from both May and June. And if we take a look at more further back statistical trends and taking a look at what we're expecting to see, I would expect that we are going to see August be a little bit more of the same. So here's a look at the last 8 months of 2025. And then we take a look at last year in 2024. You can see the average price in June, 644, July, 623, and then August at 606. And we see the prices jump back up for 630 in September. You're going to see a very similar thing in 2023. The July numbers actually held here, but you can see that August significantly less than both July and September. 2022, a bit of an outlier year. We saw every month the interest rates went up and up and up. So we saw the actual prices decrease. But you can still see that we saw actually the average price in September be significantly higher than August. And again, 2021, same thing. Look at the average price in July, August, and then you look September. 2021 actually saw November numbers continue to climb. So why is this? Well, a lot of people are on vacation. And the spring market sees a lot of people rushing to buy homes, looking for that summer close so they can be all moved in before the fall starts. And when we're looking in the summer, a lot of people have other things on their mind, real estate not being number one. We typically see it slow down July and August, and then we see the fall rush where everyone is coming back to make a move who's looking to do it this year before the snow comes and nobody really wants to be moving in the winter. So here's a look at the average price trends. Now let's take a look at the units sold. So units sold can probably be best articulated if we're going to compare year over year. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at a 5-year overlap. Okay, so here we have 2021 in yellow, 22 in purple, 23 in orange, green 24, and black 25. So pretty typical. We see January start with lower numbers, and you can see pricing, the amount of sales increase, typically peaking around May, and then you see sales start to decline for the rest of the year. So these numbers are actually how many homes are actually sold that month. So you can see down here, July saw 1595, down from the previous July of 1769. More similar to what we saw in 2023. Okay, and obviously 2021 was big numbers. We saw over 2,000 homes sell in the month of July. So when we're taking a look at this, you can see that black being this year, we are kind of on a similar trend of being in between 2024 and 2023. And we're continuing that trend right now. So I'm expecting that we're going to see a little bit more of what we saw those years. Okay. Another thing people like to look at is days on market. Now, days on market can be a little bit skewed. It's harder to record because a lot of people, instead of doing price drops on their listings, what they do is they do a cancel and relist. So that resets the days on market. So right now it's saying the average days on market is 36. I would say it's probably a little bit higher than that. But again, I mean, in between the month and 2 month range is still pretty good, for overall what we typically see. If we went way further back, like say we were going to go back 20 years. And then you can see, this is around when I started in real estate in 2014. And so the average days on market was, as high as 70 in December, as low as 45 in June. So we're still right now selling homes faster than the quickest homes we're selling back in 2024. Now, this was actually a buyer's market. And so that's where we're transitioning into right now. And then you can see how things changed. We saw homes sell, the average home was selling in as few as 12 days back in 2021. So, I mean, those are really record numbers, outlier years that we're not going to see again. But even right now, I would classify this market as a buyer's market because we do have more listings than we do have sales. But we're still on, the side closer to an actual seller's market. We're in a little bit more equilibrium than we were, all of these years from, say, 2012 till 2018. So that's one thing to keep in mind, too, is people read in the news a lot about, Canadian real estate prices crashing and the market being so horrible. Right now in Ottawa, we're actually in a better market than we've seen typically over time. So another thing to look at as well is this is a program called Reality. So this is what supports my data, but everyone's going to have a little bit different numbers depending how they do it. So the Ottawa Real Estate Board also projects us numbers that we can take a look at. And so this is another big predictor of what I'm expecting to see happen for the rest of the year. So new listings by week. So we just took a look at the sold homes, but we didn't look at how many homes we're listing a week. So this is actually a pretty interesting one that is going to show us a little bit different from previous years, right? When we looked at the average amount of homes sold or days on market, we're more similar in that 2023, 2024 range. The big outlier difference that we're seeing this year, you can see here 2025 being the darker color there. We have pretty much seen more homes come to market than we have before. So that is a big thing right now. Obviously, when we have sales being less than last year and listings being more, it gives us a little bit picture of what we're going to expect to see in the real estate market, right? And typically, you're going to see here too, the listings will slow down for the next couple of weeks in August here, and then after Labor Day, we'll see a kick back up. Those are pretty much absorbed by the amount of kickback up in sales that we see. But you can see there's quite a difference between how many homes are being listed right now compared to other years. So again, this is week by week, right? So if we're looking at week 1 of the year, week 52 of the year, and then these are, the 100 of homes that are selling. So you can see here, there's a pretty big discrepancy if we're looking at, say, 24 being the yellow, right? About 200 homes more a week, on a rough estimate, you can see is what we're seeing. And so with less sales happening than last year, we're adding up quickly the amount of inventory. Another thing to look at would be then is the home sold by week, taking a look at the same graph. So taking a look at the same graph where we saw this year listing a lot more homes than typical, we actually see that we started selling less homes than previous years. Again, 2025 being the darker color, the green 2022 being the real outlier. Let's compare it more to 2023, 24. With the last couple of years that we've seen we're actually selling less homes for almost the first half of the year. And now we're selling a little bit more about par. So it's good to see sales have caught up, but obviously that has to be played with the fact that we are seeing more listings than ever. So while we're seeing just as many homes sell, like the last couple of months, as we did this time last year and the year before, we're seeing significantly more homes come to market, which, something you have to prepare for. So what does that really mean for you? Well, if you are a seller, it means you have more competition. And while the prices have held this year, where we look at the prices again, you can see that last month they went down, but they're up year over year. I expect that we are going to see a bit of a correction here, because when we have less sales happening and more homes coming to market, right now the prices haven't been as touched as much because people are just sitting on the market at the price that they're not selling at. But something's going to have to give, right? So when we're dealing with more of these cookie cutter homes or homes that are not super unique, when we're dealing actually in the lower price points. So this is the biggest difference that I've seen now that I've never really seen before in the market, is typically when the market slows down, we still see that entry level market, the lower priced homes, being the hottest market, because everyone is kind of fighting for that approval rating. Everyone is approved for so much, and so they're trying to get in the door and they're fighting for the lower price homes. Right now, what we're seeing is that is what is increasing in inventory the most. And so we are seeing those homes sitting on the market, not getting quite the amount of action. And so when you have these types of homes, whether they are condo townhomes, maybe condo stacked homes, maybe condo units, maybe townhomes, all of what you would say consider a starter home, when we're seeing less activity there, it's going to come down to who needs to sell, right? So when we're looking at a bunch of homes sitting on the market, and the last ones have sold for a certain price, but right now homes aren't selling, it's going to come down to who needs to sell the most, and they are going to do what they have to do to sell. So it becomes a little bit of a scramble right now as people reduce their price and look to get a sale. So while prices have held for the last couple of months, we saw a decline in July. We always see a decline in August. I'm expecting to see one. And I expect to see a pretty significant one here in August. And I expect there's going to be some deals to add to some savvy buyers, right? So no, the sky is not falling, but we're going to see more of what we see every single year. This is the opportunity for a buyer to get a good deal when there are more homes on the market than are actually selling, and finding a seller that would rather take less money for their home and have the sale than be stressed out and continue to sit on the market. Maybe they've already bought a home, maybe they're moving out of the city, out of the country, and they need to sell. Other circumstances of sale too. Families breaking up, that kind of stuff. So there is opportunity right now for savvy buyers to take advantage of someone who's not getting activity on their home, but needs to sell. And so, we're seeing homes start to sell for significantly less. I saw a home this week, actually, week on market, it dropped the price $50K, and 3 days after that, it sold for $70K under asking. So $130K drop in less than 2 weeks. And that was actually the only sale in the area in the last month or so. So it goes to show that that's kind of what it was going to take for that home to sell quickly. Obviously, that person needed to sell for whatever reason, but that buyer ended up getting a great deal. And so right now, if you're someone's looking to buy a home, I would consider taking a look when other people aren't looking, right? Everyone else is at the cottage or enjoying their summer. Now's the time to take advantage of an opportunity that's sitting right in front of you. But yes, it's not all gloom and doom. If you're a seller right now, you're sitting on the market, what should you do? Well, this is the conversation that I'm having with my sellers right now, okay? I'm being completely honest with them. I'm showing you the numbers that I'm showing you. And I mean, this is all dependent on the market, okay? What we're looking at is macro level, all types of homes, all across different neighborhoods in Ottawa. There are still some neighborhoods right now, some types of homes that there is not homes on the market, and they are selling in a day for over asking. But it's still happening every single day, every single week. But what we're talking about now is if you happen to be selling your home, you have a townhome in an area where there's a lot of very similar townhomes for sale and none are selling. Now you're going to have to take a look and pay more attention to not what sold 2 months ago, not what sold last year, but how many homes have sold in the last month and how many homes are for sale. And say, for example, in your neighborhood, if there's 15 homes like yours for sale, in the last 30 days, we saw 2 sales, well, then you're sitting on 7 months of inventory, right? Basically, how we account for that is if we are going to say, okay, if no more homes sold today, at the rate of which homes are selling for now, how many months would it be before we had no more homes? So if that's what we're looking at, say there's 15 homes available, only 2 sold in the last month. You're now sitting with 7 months of inventory. You now have to decide, how long can you wait to sell, right? And what is going to happen if another home on the street is more motivated than you, right? It's only going to go one way. So you have to have the hard conversation of running the numbers and really ultimately what is going to make the most sense for you. Because for those who are going to wait to drop, they're going to see their neighbor who drops first sell and then take that buyer off the market, and then they're going to be potentially chasing the market, meaning that they are going to sell underneath that last sale, which would have been the lowest sale on the block in this year, most likely. So that's something to pay attention to. But again, like I said, it's not all gloom and doom. We're taking a look and seeing that, okay, every August we see homes sell for less. So if you don't need to sell right away, you can hold on to the home a little bit. That is something to consider, right? Do you hold off? Do you expect, that you're not going to see much action for the next month or so? And do you plan to hit the market right in September, right? Do you plan to strategically price your home then and put the marketing in for it then when it's going to have the most eyes on it? That is the question you got to ask yourself, right? Do you try and beat out the market? Do you try and get whatever eyes are in your neighborhood on yours as opposed to the others right now and get a sale today so you can get over with? Or do you kind of knuckle down and weather the storm and get ready to take advantage of the fall market, which is going to see most likely more buyers come back? That is pretty much, what any seller is going to have to evaluate for themselves right now. And everyone's circumstance is different. So, if you're in a position where you do not need to sell and every dollar counts, well, then I would recommend, not panicking and waiting it out, because you will see some activity pick back up here. But if you're in a position where, say, you need to sell, you've already bought a new home, I wouldn't wait for the neighbor to drop the price. I would get ahead of the curve and get a sale because, maybe 2 sold last month, but maybe only 1 is going to sell this month. And if you're sitting there and there's 14 other homes for sale, how are you going to get yours to sell first? Well, it has to do with marketing, it has to do with how we're presenting the home. But the best way you're going to do that is to position the most eyes on it. And the best way to position the most eyes on it is to price it at the most aggressive price point that is going to hit all the searches and get maximum exposure. I think that's pretty much my take on what I'm expecting to see in the market. I guess maybe a question that people might have is, why do we have so many listings coming to market? Or why is it that first-time home buyers are not buying? And why are more of those types of homes coming to the market than selling? So, this is all basically my opinion or what I'm seeing in the market. But my take on it is only from anecdotal, from what I hear from people, right? And the thing is, I get a lot of calls from people saying, I want to sell my house because my renewal is up in November. I want to sell my house because my renewal is up in December. Something like that. So there is definitely a lot of people that are taking a look at, okay, my mortgage is up, my payments are going to go up significantly. Now is my opportunity to take the value of my home, cash out, and look at investing in other opportunities, other types of real estate, or other investments altogether. And so, or even on cash flowing properties, if they're looking at and they're looking at their new interest rate and it's not going to make sense, then people are looking at getting rid of the property before they have to do that. Also, even too, it's not all about the rates going up. Just sometimes people wanted to sell before, but they didn't want to incur the penalty of the mortgage. So it's just the most opportune time as a seller. If we're taking the market of the fact, like not where the market is, where the prices are, anything like that, but if we're just looking at the seller's position of when is the opportune time to sell, well, it's when they're not locked into a mortgage, when they're not going to pay any sort of penalty. But now with the way that interest rates have changed, and if anyone renewing right now, they got their mortgage in 2020 when interest rates were very low. This is where you're going to see a lot more inventory come to the market, because still a lot of people renewed in 2020, but still a lot of people renewed in 2021. And so those are only going to increase more and more. So we're going to still continue to see that increase of inventory, in my opinion, for the next year, right? Now, that increase of inventory is not really an issue if we have the buyers to absorb it. And so why is it that buyers right now are not buying it at the same rate that they have been? And I think that has to do a lot to do with when I sit here and I look and I say, okay, the higher price point homes are actually selling better than some of the lower price point homes. Why is that? And you look at the news and you look at projected job cuts, and you realize that, okay, it's because people who are more comfortable are able to make that move. They're less concerned about the future. Whereas someone who is a first-time home buyer who is going to stretch their money as far as it can go to purchase that home, if they're concerned about losing their job, then that is going to cause them not to purchase a home. And again, I mean, there's probably other factors that I'm not seeing or that I don't know about, but just on a outside look at things, and from just talking to people with this every day, taking a look around of what it is that we're seeing, that would be my opinion. I would say that what's driving the inventory increase is we're seeing the renewals coming, and it being the opportune time for people to list a property, and the decrease in entry-level homes being just right now people are a little bit unsure of the economy. They're unsure of the stability of their job, and it's causing them to not act in the way that they were before. And this whole year, I wish I was shooting these videos because I would have predicted that the prices would have come down sooner than now. Actually, I was very surprised to see that, in fact, July was the first time the average price came down this year. And actually, let's bring it back to that overall graph here, because if we take a look, I don't think I spent enough time on that. If we just take a look at, again, the last 13 months here, you can see that the average price went up every single month from January. Actually, it took a little small dip, but from February until June, we saw the average price increase every single month, which is, again, typical. But if we looked again at the 5-year overlap, you can see that from June of 2025, there is only 3 months. There's February, March, April, and potentially May of 2022, where the average price was higher. But right now, if you were to show people that, most people wouldn't think that makes sense, right? Because it doesn't seem like the homes are so much higher than they were in 2024, 23, 21. And again, the reason that I'm seeing this discrepancy, and I don't have the information to back it up because it's very hard to discern the different property types from a system like this. But from what I'm objectively seeing is that the higher priced homes are selling. So because we have so fewer of the lower price homes selling and we see the higher price homes selling, it is bringing our average price up. So I think that this is actually a bit inflated. I don't think that the average home is selling for that much more than in previous years. I think that the actual entry-level home are selling for less. And just we're seeing so much fewer of those sales than we typically see, and so much more of the higher price homes, that we are seeing this data get skewed in that type of way. Again, I can't say 100% on this. This is just what I'm feeling from what I'm seeing and trying to articulate the data based on what makes sense to me. But I have this conversation with a lot of people, and a lot of people agree. I actually sat down the last couple of weeks. I've been sitting on a couple of meetings with agents across North America. So agents in other parts of Canada, but other parts of the States. And I mean from all over the States. And it's the first time I've ever done this. I do this pretty often, but it's the first time I've ever done this where every single person on the call is describing the same market. Typically, we're all in very different markets, right? Some markets can be very hot, while others can be very slow, depending on the industry and that area. But right now, it's being echoed across North America that we are just seeing the lower price point homes not selling like we're used to. And again, I think the only thing that can explain that is the uncertainty of job losses, right? We have it both here in Canada and the US. And so I think that is causing people to hold back on the entry-level homes, which is skewing the data a little bit. And more so in Canada than the US, we have, the US doesn't have the mortgage renewals like we do. So we just had to keep an eye on that as well, as they don't have the same inventory increasing, but they're definitely seeing the decrease in sales as well on those entry-level homes. So Just to get back on what I was trying to look at here is, I expect that we are going to see a price decrease, right? I mean, it doesn't take, it's not a huge jump when we look at every single August being less than before, but when we're looking at, again, less homes selling, more homes listing, and the average price is holding somewhat, I do think that we are going to see a pretty decent correction in the coming months, and likely we'll see September jump up over August, but I think we'll probably see it, look more like 2023, where we see the September jump up and then prices come down a little bit for the end of the year, because something's got to give when people need to sell and there isn't enough people buying. That's ultimately what it is. But that's how the cycle repeats itself, right? That's what a lot of people don't realize. People who are sitting there waiting for the market to crash. Well, this is the reality: is that when there is more homes than there are buyers, then the prices do come down. But then sellers sell that need to sell. Other sellers look at the market and they say, well, no, I'm not selling my home for that price. And they either rent out their property or they take it off the market. So now you see inventory decreasing at a rapid rate, because homes are coming off the market either selling because the prices have not come down, or they're just deciding they're not going to sell. So inventory decreases significantly, and guess what else happens? Buyers see, oh wow, the house that was going to cost me $650 back in April, well, that same house can cost me $606, so I'm back in the market. So at the same time we see inventory decrease, we see demand increase, and then the cycle starts again. And that's why you see it's a pretty cyclical cycle that we see in auto real estate. And it is for that reason, because we start off the year with low inventory, because people have sold their homes or canceled the listing, and then buyers start buying homes, and people start listing at a higher rate, and by the time we get to the summer, everyone has listed, but a lot of people have bought, and that is when the equilibrium starts to offset again. And again, you see here the amount of homes typically peaks, so the amount of homes that actually sell, I mean, that peaks, looks like this year it peaked in week 26. So, or no, sorry, week 22 or week 19. So somewhere in there is when you're seeing the peak of actual sold properties. But then, if we take a look at the peak of listed properties, you see it stays a little bit further out to week 28. Well, I hope you found this video helpful, and I would love to shoot content about what people are wanting to know about in the auto real estate market. So if you're watching this video and you have a question for me, please put it in the comments below, or you can always send me a message. You can find me on whatever platform you're watching this on. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys found this helpful, and please like and subscribe. If I see that you guys are paying attention, then I'm going to spend a lot more time shooting great content for you.